Hey, we back again at the place and time to speak to the hearts and the minds. And in the famous words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in hopes that we wouldn't say it first, but truth must be told.
And the ancestors are looking out for us. God Hayes is exposing them, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it is?
Yeah.
Now look at the Pope chair under it. Scroll down, look at the Pope chair under it.
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Flown lesson.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
All right, Rod, we back again, man. And over the y'all, Rod sent me the receipt for the tape that I put out yesterday called "The Last Flag Standing," and I did a AI analysis off the receipt that he sent me, and that's what it came up with the guy David and Russell -J Gould, who got it. I believe they got that shit from the Netarus, the information that they got sent there, because I know why you can write a quantum mechanical constitution in one day, straight out the dome, you know. But you can with a
computer program.
Well, yeah, you can with a computer program. Yeah, you can. That's right. That's right. Now I'm gonna get into that later on in the thing, but I want to build up to that. Now, based on what all you gave me, and I've been piecing everything together on how United States got started, and America, because America was another title that some other conquerors came and changed it around the corporate fiction. Now, so I'm finding out that all this starts with the Spanish Inquisition, the Doctrine of Discovery, the Papal Bulls, 1470s, leading up to Queen Isabella sacking Granada, 1992 from the Moors. But really, that ain't had nothing to do with us. They had something to do with us as Native Americans. I'm gonna tell you why, and that's gonna be part of my question. Now, what happens is once she sacked Granada, she got a flag, and that ties into where the Russell J thing. She got a flag from the King Muhammad or whatever, Ali, who was over Granada, and she got a seal. And with that flag, you need a flag on your ship to be able to sail without the pirates, who were called the Berbers, Berber Moors. They would pirate if you ain't got the right information or the right flag, right seal on your paperwork, on your manifest. They rob you and pirate your ship. Now, so they couldn't get over here before 1492 without having that flag. So what they did after they sacked Granada, they took the Granada flag and false flagged it. Now, this brings me to my first question. Could you go into the analogies, and it fits with the gang banging? It's the same thing with the pirating and the gang banging and the false flagging on the ships. Could you make that? Could you go in on false flagging and tie it in with the gang banging and how they deal with people that false flag?
Okay, so when the ship on the seas, when they false flag, they flying the flag that's not from the nation they represent, right? When you in the hood, let's say your girlfriend live in Vice Lord neighborhood, but you a GD. So instead of going on there with your Duke University Blue Devils jacket on, you put on your black and gold jacket and your black and gold cap and cock it to the left like you a Vice Lord. And the purpose of that is to be able to move through opposition territory without them knowing that you're not them. That's why we do the check-in. But the check-in got a bad name because people was misusing it that ain't from our culture. Right? When they fuck you up. If you get caught false flagging by the enemy, you might be found in a dumpster somewhere. Right? Yeah. So the ships, but that go back to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship and the catalyst for that treaty.
Okay.
They thinking that Morocco was who the treaty was with, but Morocco wasn't a country to the 1900s.
Go ahead.
But there was something called the Royal Moroccan Charter Company. It was a corporation of the Spanish Crown.
Go ahead.
And the Royal Moroccan Spanish Company is the ones who was negotiated with a recently merged Virginia Company, Northwest Trading Company, right. And they all was shipping product from America back to Europe. They was robbing each other in transit, trying to return to either England or Spain the most surplus goods.
Right.
Right. They was stealing this from the tribes of the land, by the way.
Yeah.
And so, in the course of that, they needed a ceasefire because ships was being sunk and people was getting robbed. They was setting ships on fire on the high seas, and the crowns was losing resources. So they convened what's called the Paris Accord, where they met in Paris, France.
Okay.
Neutral territory to Spain and England at the time. Mm-hmm. And they went into Paris and they signed the Paris Accord, which today we refer to as the Treaty of Peace and Friendship.
Okay.
To make a treaty to stop robbing each other in transit so that they can continuously siphon the wealth from the tribes of this land and export it back into Europe as a colonial holding company. The United States Corporation was the secondary constitution that was the blood of Crispus Attucks, that was the contract for the 200-year spell that John D told Queen Victoria, I believe it was, how to put us in a spell for to the close of the age, which was the spell was supposed to have been broken in 1976 on the bicentennial. Mm-hmm. The problem is the tribes re-attacked and took them back to war in 1812, and this gave the devil an extension. Mm-hmm. Elijah Muhammad talk about it in Our Savior Has Arrived, and he talk about it in Message to the Black Man, mm-hmm. where he talking about the devil got an extension. This is what he talking about. The enemy is the devil. The devil not no spooky dude in the underground lava pit with a pitchfork. That's not the devil. The devil is the one that you fighting in truth versus the one that the devil told you was fighting.
Go ahead.
They create your enemy for you so that they can pretend to be on your side while they feed you to your enemy.
Right.
They disrupt your troops by infiltration.
Right.
They look like us, but they not us. Which is the George Washington challenge, that we wouldn't educate ourselves above the condition. That's why they said right?
All right.
Because once you put it in the book, now it's in writing. You have to make your enemy write it down, or else he'll say, I never said that. So they had to put all of the information in writing so that we can be able to say, oh, you did say it. You said it right here.
Right.
Right.
Contract.
Yep. Contract. Contract is derived in the manner that is purveyed today from international law of sovereigns. Used to be called the Divine Code of Kings or the Ancient Code of Kings. The counter guide to that was called the Ancient Code of Thieves, because it was pitting two distinctly different classes of people against each other, the peasantry versus the royalty. So the Pedagogy of the Oppressed is the book that talks about, from the perspective of the oppressed, how do you gain power? Right? Take your ball and go home. Long as you participate in your enemy system, keeping the enemy system alive. But most of us are so dependent on the enemy system that we can't separate from the system unless we die. That's not proper symbiosis. That's parasitism.
That brings my next question, Rod. So we found out that Queen Isabella was false flagging using the flag of Granada. That's how Christopher Columbus, who was really a spy for the Spanish Inquisition, to get over here and snoop the land out, which is why he came out with a diaries. And in his diaries, he talked about the people over here with gold. You know, they had all kind of gold. They was, you know, how they was Nubian looking, and they appeared, you know, like they was the, you know, he described how the people look and how easy they'd be to conquer. Now,
notice when he referring to us back then, they not saying they look like Africans, because African wasn't called Africa yet.
That's right. He didn't say, they say indigos.
They say they look like Ethiopians.
Go ahead.
Right. If you look up the Afar, if you look up the sign, if you look up, well, the sign is the little people.
Nipsey Hussle's
right. But when you look up like the Hadendawa tribe, the Fuzzy Wuzzies, when you look up those tall tribes of the Sudan, the people, right? Product of the Inca, and the sign is the Zulu. Right? Those are different bloodline haplogroups from father lines and mother lines being different haplogroups. It's genetic diversity by creating different bloodlines through different matrilineal systems and lines. This is how the guys become the mothers of the earth. As they populate through one haplogroup, he's the god for that group. The goal is to convince everybody to only accept one father as the god. Then you have to be forced to recognize the one mother who made that one father God. So you say, Hail Mary, mother of God. But if she mother of God, what do that make her?
God.
Fruit of the God maker. She's a God maker.
Go ahead.
She make gods. She's the creator goddess, the great mother. But the father God, he's the great ruler, the one who even-handedly handled the affairs of men without distinction of right or wrong, but more along the lines of balance. Right? So in order to pervade justice, you have to be a master of balancing out situations in order for people to be able to find out the way beyond their karma. The thing right now that we fighting is manufactured ignorance through deliberate miseducation.
Go ahead.
Once we overcome the ignorance, we no longer subject to the whims of the miseducation. Everything is a probability in the realm of infinite possibility. which makes all things possible, which means everything is true and false at the same time.
Go ahead.
Blatant contradictions to themselves, right? It's the multi-dimensional dynamic at work. Because just because on this timeline is false, 2 timelines over, it could be true. And you never know when they're going to meet. Because you move into a convergence, they all got to collapse into a particle from the waveform. Right? So that means you coming into a singularity somewhere. That means all timelines must come to an end in order for a new timeline to take shape.
Hey, Rod. My next question, because I'm putting it all together. I'm piecing the whole storyline together. Now, so I found out like after 1492, that's when the Spanish were the first ones that really we was coming in contact with that was more trying to colonize
because
us.
They was the first ones, the Catholic Church. The Tudor family was the ones who petitioned the Catholic Church to go to the higher ups to get them permission to colonize.
Yeah, okay.
So the Spanish came over here with the first lines of demarcation for conquest.
Go ahead.
Right? And it was the first red line. When you look it up in the maps, it's a single red line that the Pope wrote on the map for Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was somewhere along the eastern shoreboard of the Mississippi, going north from the Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's what made them determine to launch the attack on Florida.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is how we got the Spanish term Seminoles.
Mm-hmm.
They tell us the Seminoles mean the runaways. I don't know what it means, because the root word is semi, which means half.
Go ahead.
Right. Noles. New Orleans is Nola.
Go ahead.
It's a Spanish rendition of a Creole term.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it means semi half, notice the half blood Americans, or the mixed blood Americans. It was a whole bunch of tribes converging. That's how they got the term.
Mm-hmm.
But they gave it this a different definition in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
They was also referred to as Cimarron, which where you get your Cimarron Cadillac from. The Cimarron Indians is Cimarron.
Go ahead.
Cimarron means semi-maroon, half maroon. The maroons that they referred to, we call them Gullah or Gullah Geechee.
Go ahead.
They was from the islands off of Carolinas in the Atlantic Ocean, but they would come to the mainland, and it was the Gullah Geechee Big Mama that issued the call that we was under attack. So this is how we all end up going into Florida. The people that was telling you was the runaway slave wasn't a brother. It was the long-haired Mongolian.
Go ahead.
Because that's who they brought over here from they long-standing 700-year wars with Huns and Vedics. And you got to remember they was under the influence of the Ottoman Empire.
That's right.
Right. So the Ottoman Empire, this is where you get your term days, bays, and L's and Ali's. Those are ranking systems under the Ottoman Empire. Remember, they became Byzantine kings when they went from Babylon north across the western side of the Mediterranean. But they became Etruscans when they came across the Bering Straits and settled in what was called Tuscany, which overlaps with Rome. Right? So now that's called a bilateral assault. They're attacking from 2 different angles using the pretext of 2 different cultures. This is why they always say they changed the name from Istanbul to Constantinople under Constantine. Right? Emperor Constantine is the founding father of the church. Right? 325 AD, Nicene Council. The first of the ecumenical councils. Can't say that word. And from there, they set up several other councils because they was determined what parts of the country to incorporate in the practice of the church to be most effective in controlling the people. It had nothing to do with your belief in God or your ability to be liberated in your soul from the conjure work. They didn't never want you to be liberated. Right? The whole concept of a slave comes from somebody that think they better than somebody else, and that's how you know who they work for. Because soon,
go ahead.
God it tell you right in their good book, God is no respecter of persons. Right? That means that he don't show favoritism. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. Stand on it firm, don't be moved. Become the master of the post in order to be the proper postmaster. We coming in on the Northgate to set the record straight.
Let's go.
Pong on the post with a gorilla grip. I guarantee you I won't bump a flip. I'm going to hold it down, standing with both feet on my 360 till I flip the 720 across the 1440. But they ain't ready for us. Science is too high. So you got to dumb it down for the people.
Hey, that brings me to my next question. All right, so they false flag. That's how they got past the pirates, the Moors, and was able to get over here and start.
Morocco false flagging right now. They stole Noble Drew Ali flag, flat out.
False flagging. Okay.
They stole Noble Drew Ali flag in order to usurp the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Wow.
Because he was exposing the Zionist frauds for who they was, but only the tribes over here gonna know who they talking about. And they tried to set up Morocco after Noble Drew Ali was gone. Because when you look up the dates, that wasn't a flag before it was Noble Drew Ali flag, which was a Cherokee flag out of the Carolinas. Here we is back in the Carolinas. You can't leave out Sweet Caroline.
That
right?
flag was in Salem too. The cities, it was more than like 100 cities of Salem over here, and all them cities. That flag.
None of them biblically named cities was named them biblical names before the church came over here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I'm saying like it was a
none of them biblical names applied to anything over here before 1492. That's Jericho right. City, the only cities that still got their names is the ones with Kemetic names and a couple other ones with what they call Greek names. Because we was teaching them suckers. That's how we knew all their languages.
Yes, right. This is my next question. My next question is, okay, so after 1492, we get all the Spanish Inquisition, Black conquistadors, everybody coming over that period of time. Then we get to the next key pivot point in them conquering and colonizers. Pocahontas, Montaoka, who was the Parliament princess 1607.
Okay, first of all, you got to say, what do the Pocahontas mean?
Go ahead.
The secret is in the name they gave. Pocahontas means she just acted.
Yeah, but her real name was Montaoka.
But who named her Pocahontas?
I guess
it's a tribal word. It's a tribal word. That means that whoever called her Pocahontas was working for our side. Because the name means that she's a fraud. She's faking. She's a little girl playing a part in the park with the rest of the kids.
But her name was
she's not real.
Her name Montaoka.
Right, I understand that, but I'm focused on Pocahontas right now. What does it mean? It's a message there for the tribes to know that it's a fraud at work.
Okay.
That's why they changed her name to Pocahontas.
Okay, I'm with you on that.
Because she was a fraud. She wasn't the rightful heir.
Okay.
They used her and sensationalized her, but the elders say she was faking. She was playing a part. She was an actress.
Okay, I'm with you on that part.
A fictitious character.
Yeah, I got you. So that brings me to my next question. I got you. She was an actor. Because I'm getting them parts down about how they pull that off. Now, Okay, so but the thing is, they use her son Thomas Roth as to set up their first business, their first what they call a colony, which was a company business. And so, what is your things on there about them being able to use him, saying that he was the Parliament princess's son, and therefore he had blood rights connection to her dad, and that ties him back into the
What?
land. So all of his family members that's
Why?
bloodline with him can
Why?
come over.
Why do you think that? Why do you think the elder told us his mama was acting? She never said what they done. When you read the story of what they said about his son, it can't be true. He can't be the rightful heir because the elder said that she was just an actress.
Go ahead.
She was a character put in play to use birthright. And then you tell the story about her son usurping the birthright. Go back over the story. You just told the story of why they told us that she was just faking.
They're trying to tie themselves into the vine, these particular dark-skinned Moors.
They try to tie themselves to the land.
Yeah, right.
It's easier to tie to the vine than it is to tie to the land.
Go ahead. That brings me to my next question.
The vine, you can tie to the vine just by marrying somebody from the bloodline.
That's right.
But you can't tie it to the land if you can't trace it beyond that point.
Okay, that's right. And all this leading back.
So they transplant themselves. They transplant themselves. They usurpers.
Usurpers. So come to find out that all of these companies, the 13 colonies. Now we get to the 13 colonies. The establishment of 13 colonies, which the Moors in Britain set up essentially. Now come to find out that it wasn't no prisons over here until after they came, the 1600s. So were they setting up prisons for the convicts that were coming over? Well, the convicts really didn't come over here until 1715, the white convicts. So why would we didn't have prisons over here? And I got a tape coming out on what Native Americans did they had a certain type of program that they put people through. And they didn't have no such thing as jails. The first prisons is in 1607. So could you break down what was the game on setting up the prisons and being that they owned by mostly Federal Reserve, private owned guys? Go ahead.
So there's an extension of a military invading army.
Okay.
The people from the land that they can't control, they contain them by using prisons.
Okay.
Right. The Geneva Convention told them to stop killing them. They still killing them though.
Right.
But they put more of them in prison so it'll look like they're not killing them. They only killing the most important ones for the day. Because another one gonna come up behind them gonna be more important than that one.
Right.
Right. So the ones that they don't really have, they can't justify killing them without it causing us to just instantaneously wake up, like Malachi.
Yeah.
The sex allegation is the underlying evidence in any rape case. The allegation is the key evidence. If you question the allegation, which is questioning the evidence at its source, you become frowned upon as being unsympathetic to the victim. But you got to be able to question the allegation at its source. What's the motive? Right? What made you come out and tell us this story? What was your purpose?
COINTELPRO operation.
We know that. But how do we explain it to the people? Like, I put a post up about Malachi about a couple of weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, and the girl posted the herpes test thing on there, right? But Malachi never had.
No, we ain't gonna talk about that because every time there's some kind of way, every time it seems like that's part of the game. I don't want to even.
It is part of the game.
Yeah,
it is part of the game.
I don't want to even talk about that part.
But that's the manufactured evidence that's showing you where the fraud is.
one day in a dream and told me, don't even mention that shit no more. Because that's a bunch of crap. Don't even mention it. Don't even entertain it. Don't say nothing about it. Because it's a bunch of crap. So
Right.
my next question is yeah, so we know they Pocahontas, you say it was all acting and all that. Then we get down to the 13 colonies. And so the United States was a part of America, or a part of this land. The United States is the 13 colonies. So how do they take control of the whole land when they only had 13 colonies and they were all businesses? How do a business take over a native's land?
Banking. The 13 colonies became the 13 central banks. They had to shut our banking system down. Now they tell the story that our banking system was called plantation money. That's because every family had their own currency. They did business with their family members. They bartered and traded among themselves. We didn't have a universal currency across the land because everybody had a family bank. The family banks was forcibly shut down using those heroes called outlaw bank robbers. The reason why they did that is the same reason why they have economic hitmen today, because they got to establish their supremacy across the land, right? The postal zones became parcel zones of the corporations' reach. Every time you put up a post box, you extend their jurisdictional range under the postmaster.
Go ahead, Rod. We're leading into it.
Right, which gives us something called zip codes. Right, what is a zip? Right, a zipper is a fastener. It makes two parts of a fabric come together somewhere. Right, so when they give us a zip code or a zipper code, they say what type of fasten connection we have to this geography, because you put us under the postal zone. The postal zone is the parcels of jurisdictional authority of the federal government. It has nothing to do with we the people, and it has everything to do with we the central banking systems.
Yeah, addresses.
Right. Addresses used to be given different, right? I would say I would write young elder a letter, but I send it to his big mama house, and then the uncle responsible to bring elder family mail, it'll be in that package.
Right.
This is where your Pony Express came from. Family members communicating across the land, but they turned into the postal service, right? Which was the first ones that started off with the shootings. Well, first it was restaurants, Jack in the Box, McDonald's, right? Then it was the postal service. I'm telling you something with these mass shootings about what area they searching for control over. When the post office was making people go postal, that was because they was losing traction on their contract. So they needed to create the distraction. The distraction takes us to the 2 World Trade Center bombing and the Oklahoma City bombing, right? Because they got to give us 3 major knocks before they move to strike for power. George Herbert Walker Bush, after he declared himself King George I of the United States of America, next thing you know, the first World Trade Center bombing go off. Right? So now he got to wait 5 years. Now in come his boy Clinton. Most of us don't know Clinton was a CIA asset of George Herbert Walker Bush.
Right. Indeed.
CIA code name the Snowman, how he made the snow across Arkansas, bringing all that dope in under Iran-Contra jurisdictional control.
Go ahead.
But we don't know about the dealings of Bill Clinton and his brothers in the Arkansas drug trade that fed all of the narcotics of the South.
Right.
That's going all the way from Texas, where they was getting it from the other side, going back west with it. So you coming from Texas, Louisiana border, going back east, until you get to Florida, where they bringing it from Cuba and Guatemala, Colombia, right? So now the Bushes is in charge of the distribution, you asset to bring the drugs over here under the pretense of international drug seizures.
They made a movie about it, so they can't get mad at us for talking about it. What is Kyle Rod with Bobby Seale or whatever his name is? They made with Tom Cruise, but it was a reenactment of the dude that they put. Everybody got whacked after they everybody come up whacked after they started getting a hold of it in Arkansas. But he was an airplane pilot for Clinton. I can't somebody drop his name in the chat. Was it Bobby Seale?
Where that Blow?
Nah, Blow is another
one. No, not Blow. Not Blow, the other one.
What's the name of that movie with Tom Cruise? I know they might have shot one before that one, an older one, but it was one with Tom Cruise where he played, I think it's Bobby Seale, I think is his name. Not Bobby Seale. Bobby Seale is the dude with the Black Panthers. His name was somebody drop his name in the chat. The dude that was the move airplane pilot, not Cocaine Cowboys. Cocaine Cowboys connect to some more guys. They come out to that. They connect with the same CIA. All them connect. All these guys was CIA, but I'm just saying connected with Big Bush, and Big Bush was the guy. Hey, which brings me to my next question. Now, so we got the 13 colonies. They started once they got broke free from King George and the British Moors.
They never broke free.
Well, yeah, they never broke. Go ahead.
That's the great falsehood. They've been selling us in batch roll birth certificates. And Trump first administration, he ran the British ship out of the harbor of DC.
Go ahead.
That was the ship that used to collect the birth certificates to take them back to the crown to cash in on the slave asset of the people of the land.
Go ahead.
And that was critical before the J6, when the dude that was with the painting all over his body was sitting behind Pelosi desk.
Sherman.
Right. Yeah. That was seizing the battleship. You got to remember, the president is not the head of the political structure. The Speaker of the House is. The president is in charge of just the military. But the military is under oath to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And they took that more serious than they wrote the oath. The ones that created the oath was creating an oath for deception. They didn't think that nobody would ever really take the oath to heart and begin to start protecting us from the people that became known as the deep state. Right? These are the same ones that Kennedy was talking about in his in his address to the press club. It's the same ones that Eisenhower was talking about in his speech about the military-industrial complex. It's the same ones FDR warned us about, and during the Great Depression, that we was being taken over by international bankers.
Yeah.
Right. And then, right. We said JFK already. We going backwards in time.
And Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln warned us of these guys. He got picked up.
He was one of them.
Yeah.
He was one of them. Abraham Lincoln was the greatest fraud ever played on the American public.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Because they gave us the idea that he somewhere found the conscience enough to free something called a slave.
Right, go ahead.
That's not what he did.
Go ahead.
But we don't understand what he did, so he become immortalized as a hero. But what he actually did was deprivatized it and made it a national pursuit of government to enslave all of the people, from the ones who used to own slaves to the ones who used to be their slave, and everybody in the middle.
Yeah, he just switched the slave property over to the United States Congress.
Right. That's what the emancipation was, the transferring the jurisdictional authority to own slaves from the private sector to the public.
Right. But what got him
Now you can't privately, now you can't privately own slaves because they got something called kidnapping, unlawful restraint, involuntary servitude, all these terms that they made. They violate every one of them every day, but we can't violate none of them.
Yeah, that's facts. That's facts.
That's because there's war. The British Crown is in charge of the war. And when King George founded the barristers, he told them in the charter to use the legal system to take everything from the people of the land. That's why the Dred Scott case say that no black man has any rights that a white man is bound to respect.
No standing in law at all.
Right, because the law has nothing to do with us. It's a salvage right pursuit based on the crash of the Plymouth. But we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
Yeah, shout out Malcolm X, man.
So when we realized that the Mayflower was the good ship Plymouth, and we realized that it actually ran into a sandbar right outside DC, where they left the commemorative Plymouth Rock stone at. Then we understand how they put us into this international legal bind using the international court that was created by the Vatican that had already told them they had the first claim of right to the land by papal order, by discovery right. Right, because we didn't have any rights they was bound to respect ever.
Yeah, we savages.
So that we can force, we have to assert our own rights. They're not going to respect us asserting our rights. And this is how you have somebody that be absolutely right in what they saying, and they still don't give a damn, lock their ass up.
Right.
Because we don't have any rights that they don't respect any of our rights because they operating under war protocol, and we are the sworn enemy, as we already showed you. By the time 1933 came around, they published it in the military notice in the Black's Law Dictionary. I didn't write it. I just showed y'all where it was at. Now that you know that there was somebody attacking us, the video I gave you that brought up Russell J. Gould, I didn't even care about Russell J. Gould. He irrelevant to me.
Right.
The part that was most important was the military man explaining the admiralty part.
Right.
And how they asserted the admiralty jurisdiction because they used the postal zones in order to establish what's called salvage zones. Remember, we legally dead because we had a shipwreck and the good ship Plymouth crashed our ship into their landmass. Into their ship. Right. Our landmass is our ship. So they boarded our ship under hostile circumstances.
Right.
That's called an invasion in the definitions of war terms. When a foreign enemy forced themselves onto somebody else's territory, that's an invasion.
Go ahead.
They worried about illegal Mexicans coming back to Mexico that's part of America now, that they should have been able to go and come freely anyway if you wouldn't have changed the lines of demarcation.
Go ahead.
All of that was Mexico. So you're saying that if what side of the land you got caught on is what side of the land you trapped on.
Right. Right.
So when they set up all of those states, California, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, that's all Mexico. They can't be illegal immigrants because they was already on that land.
Right.
But we don't have enough understanding of what's taking place to realize it's a divide and conquer war strategy so that they won't talk to the brothers that's hanging out with the Bloods and the Crips out west, the ones hanging out with the Vice Lords and the GDs and the P-Stones in the Midwest, the ones hanging out in 5 boroughs in the Northeast, the ones that's down there jet setting in Miami, all these different Spanish-speaking people experiencing the experience, telling the same story when they go back to Mexico, Puerto Rico, Guatemala, Colombia, Venezuela. They still telling the same stories down there about they invaded too. They got hostile settlers and conquerors on their land too. They got infiltrators and imposters on their part of the land too. But if they're not sending nobody up here to investigate, we won't ever know. And the best investigators is to send somebody who want to live there.
Right. Hey, I got the next question for you. So it seems like to me, you said this is United States is a ship. Seems like the ship been hijacked by aristocrats and foreign guys, and that the ship been going down for a long time. The national debt, all this crap, right? And so now, I did more research on the guy Russell to find out more in depth on it. That's why the video breaks down more like you want it, right? But this the part I want to know about. These people don't, once he claimed that Title IV flag, and then he called down to set these people down. They said that, well, since you the man, and that we declare war against you. We ain't shutting down. We declare war against you, and they hung up in his face. So how do one man who got to claim the flag go against the rogue government who got control?
He can't do it by himself.
Go ahead.
If he don't have military might behind him to enforce his jurisdictional supremacy, he might as well not be even say nothing. Go sit your ass down.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. There are people that can enforce it now. It can be enforced. But the problem is, it's not enough of us for it to make collective sense that when we enforce it and they come with overwhelming force to try to stop us, it's not enough for our people that understand the conditions in which would require us to use that avenue.
Yeah, the bankruptcy in the United States bankruptcy. Could you go into United States bankruptcy? They bankrupt for the final time in 1999, and they pretty much had to be vacated by 2000 November 3rd, 2001. But they still there under pretty much the enemy, like as enemies, pretty much. Trespassers.
They are occupiers.
Yeah,
they've been occupiers since 1776.
Damn.
They was invaders from 1492 to 1776. They were just invaders. 1776 they became occupiers. They had the most powerful military as they have now to enforce their ability to stay on the land. But you got to remember, some of them military old heads figured out the fraud. And they just had to wait for one of the rightful heirs to be able to competently and coherently describe the fraud, the rightful heir position as pretender to the throne, right? Blood rights to the land that's tied to motherland, the rulership rights tied to the fatherland, red house, blue house, in order for him to be the royal son, the purple child, right? And now you sitting here, they looking at purple haze all in their eyes. I guess they can kiss the sky. Unless they want to run into Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Hey. But they'll set the record straight.
That's right.
And all of these tribes have contributed this part of the piece that they were supposed to contribute in order for us to put it all back together. Even the ceremonial tribes. Ceremonial tribes, a lot of times, was given contracts by the government, but they took sides with the outlaw tribes. And so they became blessed in as ceremonial tribes, but they still their own tribe. Right? And a lot of them came through the Muskogee Creek Nation as honorary tribesmen in order for us to be able to use their skin tone to get into places we couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we begin to make arrangements across the land. These old ladies was having bridge meetings in the attic while they bridging the gap between the motherlands of the rightful heirs and the other heirs of the world that came over here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In order to put together a cohesive plan, they needed to find a son of a mother that's a rightful heir that they can all get behind and say, this is our son who we well please. He came to get our shit for us. Please hand it over before we turn him loose all the way. We trying to be nice about it. We putting it all out in the public for the public to scrutinize it, tear it apart, do what they want to do with it. But when they put it all back together, it's still going to be the same. It's going to be a public notice based on the blood and the right. Notice the agent is notice the principal. As long as it's in the timestamp archival format that all social media fits a standard for, that the public has the information and the information is in the public domain according to the oral tradition of the tribes that's always been already been recognized as a standard for the people to follow in order to serve their redemption upon the colonizer to occupy their land.
Right.
Now we're just waiting on the military to make the next move.
Yeah, hey, I don't even use the word cellular. They're not cellulars. They colonizers. That's not. Ain't no such thing as coming over to sell on somebody's land. You a colonizer,
Occupiers.
man. Yeah.
Colonizers and occupiers.
Yeah, ain't no such thing. You talking about you a free grazer. That's what we call them, free grazers. Hey, but that's my next question. Yeah, that's my next question. So now that we on the post office now. We on the Benjamin Franklin post office in DC, I think, and then you got Philadelphia post office. Now we found out that because my girl, once it hit me, and my girl used to work for the post office, so I started to ask her a couple of questions about what going on at the post office. And so she said they had to swear in at the post office to the Constitution. I was like, damn, that sounds like a military thing, right? And then she goes on to say that the federal mail, I mean, you can't like messing with somebody's mail is a federal offense. So the post office is more like a military operation than somebody that's just delivers some mail. So could you go in on the strategic operations on, because when you go send the IRS, they mail you stuff in the mail. When you attack through this pirate type system, they attack you through the mail. Could you go more in on the scientific side of with how they running this mail game, fraud game?
So it's called service or process, or process of service.
Mm-hmm.
Because they control the post office, every step of the way they have controlled the process.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now they have to serve you at the end of the process. Here, them serving you, everything they serve you is a bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to remember what a bill is. Remember the Saturday morning cartoon. I hope and pray that I will. Yeah, I'm still a bill. I'm sitting on Capitol Hill to become a bill. A bill is a financial instrument that carries the weight of a financial burden. Mm-hmm. Right? So when they offer a bill to the Senate or the Congress, it's only to determine if the collective people of the land is willing to foot the bill.
Go ahead.
Do we want our government to spend money in the tunes of hundreds of trillions of dollars a year on military, or do we want to take about 20 billion of that and feed the poor? Right. Nobody's selecting to feed the poor out of that military budget. Matter of fact, appoint the military to feed the public. Right. We got the money and the resources and the food available that we can compel the military to issue rations out weekly to families based on the number of family members. Yeah. So instead of building more bombs, we got enough bombs. We don't need no more bombs. We got enough bombs to obliterate this place 1,000 times over. Why we need to keep building bombs? We don't need B2 from Colorado to London in under 6 hours.
Go ahead.
We don't need no faster planes.
Right.
Right? We don't need no bigger guns. We got Gatling guns on helicopters.
Right.
Right? We got suicide guns, heart attack guns, suicide sound frequency guns. We don't need no more guns.
Right.
Right? We need people's day-to-day needs to be met according to what the government standard's supposed to be. Not what we want it to be, what it's supposed to be. If you put everything the way it's supposed to run, we don't have problems like we have now. The only thing that's running this old system we breaking free from was greed and ignorance. The greedy was exploiting the ignorance of the masses, turning the masses into sheep for exploitation. Now we informing the sheep of what the greedy is doing, and now they angry sheep, but first they got to get mad at us before they get mad at the one who deceived them.
Hey, so Rob, based on what the data I collected so far on piecing it all together, based on the time frame we're coming into now, what I see is a war between us and somebody else, because we cut everybody off. Really, technically, we cut everybody off. The Pope, everybody. We don't want nothing to do with none of y'all. So, do you think it could be repercussions because we cut all these guys off? The Pope ain't getting this cut no more. The Crown ain't getting no cut. Donald Trump liquidating everything, everybody holding us, so we can restructure the whole government. So do you think that somebody gonna get ticked off with us, or try to use the brick as a weapon to bust us upside the head because they are forming the brick?
The United States Treasury is signed on the United States Treasury is signed on to the BRICS nations, but the Federal Reserve is not.
Go ahead.
Let that sink in.
Yeah, that's right.
America is going to be all right as long as we stop our rogue politicians from instigating conflicts around the world in our name.
Go ahead.
Right? They're using the weight of our soldiers, the baddest on the planet, always have been, but they're using us. First, they got to keep us fighting each other, and then they handpick the ones they need to go fight overseas.
Yeah.
Right. So once they get the pick of the litter, out of all of the litters, they got the best team. Now the only thing is the team been so busy fighting everywhere else that the home front then got infiltrated by fraudsters.
Right.
Right. We got to overcome the fraud mechanics first. Most people don't know that the government is a whole fraud. They had to reenact it in Afghanistan and Iraq so we could see what it looked like. When you get attacked, invaded, and occupied, what is the first thing they did when they invaded? First they invaded, then they built prisons. First they invaded, then they built prisons. Why they build prisons first?
Yeah,
why they didn't build massive feeding facilities for the people?
Right.
First, and then build prisons. They had no intention on feeding the people. Never crossed their mind to feed the people. And any man that it did cross, they didn't say nothing because they subject to come on MIA.
Yeah, or get a bullet in the back of their head.
Now
like, hey.
we going, suicide bullet in the back of the head.
He want to pay his own money, man. It's like, look, that's another thing. All right, so Rod, so the AI didn't bring this up in the tape, and I was wondering why they didn't bring it up. But the military guy made mention of strategic contracts, and so I did a little research on it and found out it's tied into mineral rights, and it gives you the rights to use the bronze, gold, whatever, to print your own money. And so the U.S. government the Federal Reserve don't got no rights to print money on our land no more. But how are they still printing land if they don't got the flag to print money under the U.S. flag no more? And two,
they're not printing new money. They're circulating old money.
Right, but
And
it's like to me,
you got to remember they had warehouses those notes. They had warehouses of that stuff on pallets.
That's right. That's right.
Right. They used to trade countries using pallets and stacks of $150 bills.
Dang.
If you go back to when they invaded Iraq, when Saddam was in power,
yep,
they found truckloads of money in euros. They found like a couple $2 billion in euros and a couple $1 billion in U.S. currency.
Yep, I remember that.
Right. He was using all Arab countries was doing it. They was using the fiat that the oil was traded in through Aramco and OPEC. And the fiat was they was buying up gold bars.
Man, Rob,
so
everybody.
No, they was outsmarting their enemy.
Dang.
They knew that the oil situation was about 100-year pursuit when they found oil in Saudi Arabia. I think it was back in 1945. Right? You gotta remember, before the discovery of oil in Saudi Arabia was dirt poor.
Right.
They royal family lived like paupers.
Right.
They didn't have no palaces. They was living in sand huts and tents in the Saudi desert. They didn't have bustling cities. They had little villages all over the place.
Right.
But now that we looking at places like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Kuwait, and they got all of this massive construction, all that stuff is under 100 years old.
Right. That's right.
Right. We haven't even got 100 years old into Saudi oil production. America was producing oil during the colonial period. Let that sink in. Why are we all of a sudden not producing oil no more?
Right.
They still pumping it. Them pumps in Mississippi still pumping. The ones in Arkansas still pumping.
All capital of the world is Oklahoma. I mean, the all capital of the world is Oklahoma.
Where's the oil going? Yeah. If we buying all of this oil in the Middle East, where's the oil being pumped in America go? Where's the Mexican oil going? They like 10th in the world in oil production.
There you go.
Where they oil going? Right?
Right.
California got oil pumping. You could be driving through California. In the middle of nowhere, you see all of these fucking pumps pumping oil. Where's the oil going? They not allowed to sell it. It's on military reserve.
Yeah, and the main one was in New Orleans, and that's why they tried to Katrina to pull the oil heist. Katrina was the biggest oil heist in world history. Was when they pulled the Katrina and leaked the reserves in New Orleans out, and they brought BP in. Because BP was connected with Obama and all that, and they pulled the oil off the ocean because you could pull water and oil don't mix, so you could pull the oil off the ocean, fill your tanks up, and they made off with truckloads of our oil reserves during the BP oil spill in Katrina. It was the biggest heist ever, the biggest oil heist.
Hey, you know, a lot of people don't know about that. You bringing back something that
Judge Joe Brown told about it. Judge Joe Brown exposed them. It was the big
right, but you gotta remember this. Yep. We still arguing in the hood, did the military blow the levees or not?
Right.
We still arguing about that. We ain't even got to what was the catalyst.
Right.
Right. We ain't getting to the oil spill. None of that ain't coming up in our discussion of Katrina because the travesty of how the people was treated, one, and the never getting past, did they blow the levees or did the floodgates just burst through the levees? Right. It's because they know New Orleans is below sea level.
Right.
Right. So all they had to do is they don't even need a whole lot of explosives. And the kind of weather that was coming, that's a cracker do.
Right.
So they flooded out. I think it was the whole Ninth Ward flooded out.
Yep.
And you go through the night, a lot of people move back to build and just and relocated to another part of the city to stay.
Right. That's right.
That's not the first one of our cities they flooded out. We got records of the floods where they flooded out cities like Lake Lanier.
That's right.
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 And we got records of cities they set on fire. Rosewood, Oklahoma City, Philadelphia. Right. We still have living survivors of the Philadelphia move bombing.
Right.
They still around to tell us the story. Because most of us, when we hear it, it sounds so far-fetched. We be saying that didn't happen until we go see that it was actually being recorded in real time as it was happening.
Right. Facts. Facts. And could you go in on? Okay, so I'm coming to find out that the military, the U.S. government is guilty of a lot of stuff. So leading up to that, the Nubians were over here even after all the stuff that they did to us, still making a way and still being some of the richest people in the United States back in the day, like Tulsa, Oklahoma, dealing with Black Wall Street and Greenville or whatever. So they came in there and massacred the whole town, and it took. So could you go into the King Kong effect? Where the King Kong effect is where they use the white girl to lower you in, and then they drug King Kong to get him, do all that. But King Kong was already over here. But could you go into, because Elijah Muhammad used to say that the devil's last trick was to give you the white girl, and so I know.
No, that's not what he said. That's not what he said. The devil last trick is to freely give you his woman.
Yeah, his woman, right?
We just assuming that the devil's woman is a white woman.
Yeah, right. That's right. Right. Hey,
but we ain't know that the devil look like us, but they ain't us. That's so really, what woman is he giving you?
The devil woman. Like a woman with the devil spirit or something like that. But let me finish my question. So with that being said, you correct me on that. I stand corrected on what Elijah Muhammad said. But I also assume that he said the white woman being in the time in his philosophy.
That's because he say the white man is the devil, but the white man ain't white.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Free white man. We can get into that. But so what I'm getting at is we noticed with the Rosewood. The Rosewood, somebody the white girl blamed the black dude, they murdered the whole town. Tulsa, Oklahoma, they said that somebody touched the white girl in the elevator, they burned the whole town to the ground. Emmett Till, they said that he looked at a white girl and you saw what they did to Emmett Till. So could you go in on the King Kong white girl effect and how they utilize that, lower the white girl to pretty much do some kind of.
You ever heard the term patsy?
Nah. Oh yeah, I heard it, but I don't know what it means.
Okay, the fall guy is the man.
Yeah.
A patsy is a woman.
Okay.
Right. We can make assumptions about a lot of things, but here's some harsh truth.
Okay.
When you fighting some people that look like you, but they don't want you to know it, and they want you to think it's somebody else, those are always afterthoughts of why this happened.
Go ahead.
That ain't the cause of why that happened.
Go ahead.
But that's the cause that they use as a fear-mongering tactic so that you could feel pale faces, but you ain't never seen a white man. Right? So the pale face has been used on both sides of the war to be put out front as the catalyst to the next event of change.
Right.
Either a catalyst for the change or cover up for the usurpation. Right. It don't matter what skin color a woman is. If she a earthborn, she got mitochondrial rights somewhere on this planet.
That's right.
And as long as she got mitochondrial rights, that means she belong here.
That's right.
Right. So the whole thing that we want to get away from is the women that don't got no mitochondria.
Right.
Them trans testicles. Transformers. More than meets the eye. Robots in disguise. Right? We've been chasing drag queens in the drag race across the country, trying to see if we can tell the stallion from a mare. Some of us get stuck on the stallion thinking it's a mare because of his majesty. Right? Never knowing that the mare is the female horse. And she run the herd. She's the matriarch. She's the town mother. But we so busy chasing after stallions thinking we chasing mares.
Right.
Right? So whatever kind of milk you get out of a stallion, that's the wrong kind of milk for a man to be drinking.
Hey, which brings me to my next question, right? Now, we know that that they use, it seemed like they use women to conquer the us, because it seemed like to me they tried a lot of times to sack Grenada, but they had to use Queen Isabella to do it. Just like they got the synopsis in the Bible about using the woman to take down Samson. You know, Samson's supposed to be a bad motherfucker. He beat everybody up, taking their lunch and shit, and then they put the girl on her, and she make him fold up. So what is the synopsis on the using the certain groups of men? Because like I just said, they use the women in those scenarios with the Rosewood, Tulsa, Emmett Till. What is the thing with using with women being able to conquer? It's like, to me, men didn't conquer the world. Women conquered the world, because Queen Isabella set the callus in motion to start the whole conquer of our side of the globe, the hemisphere. So what's your point of view on that, Rod? On the women?
You got to remember, the women is the ones with the only ones that own property, land.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And she the one who commissioned the man to build a house there.
Okay. Makes sense.
So this is the source of the wealth.
Mm-hmm.
The source of the wealth is from what comes from the earth. Whether it's mining from the earth or farming from the earth, what comes from the earth is the source of the wealth. The women are the owners of the earth. But the natural nature of humans, we are sexual beings because we are spiritual beings. An enemy will use our sexual nature and weaponize it against us. And they will create stories to teach women how to get one up on a man by vengeance and vindictive behavior. And they teach women that. Mm-hmm. That's not the nature of the woman. That's a learned behavior. Mm-hmm. Right? The nature of the woman is to find harmony in all situations, circumstances, and environments. Her presence supposed to create heaven everywhere she go if she's in her true divine feminine. Right. The problem is there's too many of them in they undivine masculine pretending to be feminine that's undermining the divine feminine on the behalf of the patriarchal system. Okay. So they pretend to be soft and loving women, and all the time they are vindictive harlots waiting to be used by a system that makes it seem that they have power by them misusing their sexual energy to bring ruin to a man. The energy exchange between man and woman is natural. It's supposed to happen. You have to figure out a way to interrupt the energy flow in order for you to keep them in uncivil war, domestic warfare, war at home, right? So while you telling them about the war overseas, you make them fight each other at home so that you can see who the best fighters is to send overseas to fight. Right. Now, They have systems designed to get powerful men out of power on allegations alone, based on a system that's designed to take powerful men out of power, especially when they are in organic power. It's natural to who they are to develop to the level to become as powerful as they become. So they put systems in play to usurp that power. Anybody who was strong enough to conquer a system, they systematically removed them one way or another. They either murdered them or locked them up, or they defended them and disgraced them to the public. We got to remember that one of their war techniques is called hang them in effigy. That's the killing image of a person. That's what they was doing to Bill Cosby. Bringing up some stuff from the 70s and the 2000s. If it took you that long to complain about rape, you probably didn't get raped. I have never seen a real rape victim wait longer than probably a couple of weeks to report it.
Right.
Because it's normally so emotional, dramatic, that she have to tell somebody and so on and so forth.
That's facts.
And the ball get to rolling. Right? Sometimes they use the allegation as a weapon in order to destroy the character of a person because they can't contend with the information the person produced. And if that doesn't to execute you.
Hey, Rod, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Yep.
This is my next question, Rod. So now that we know that the system is going out and we're going to the Aquarian age, and I was born into this system, this fiat system. I never really experienced real what it's gonna be like to have real wealth, or how does real wealth work. Most of us don't even know how real wealth work because we was born into the fiat money, Federal Reserve system. The Federal Reserve Act was passed before I was born, and so how do we respond, or how are we going to? What will be the best way that we're gonna? You talked about Big Meech being training people on that type of thing. How do we convert over, being that we never experienced really real wealth actually, because we always had fiat monopoly money and never
Right.
really
So
owned that. Go ahead.
when the families are contacted to establish their family bank,
Right.
the fact they're gonna have to put together a banking committee for their family, and it got to be family members. You can hire outsiders as advisors, but they can't control any of the flow of the money. That had to be done by the family. We go back to the family banking system. This is called the decentralization of the banking system. But all of the families still have a currency. Well, because of technological advances, the transactions of the currency will go bank from bank, just like they use electronic banking now. We'll be using electronic banking.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right. But the problem is not going to be how to maintain the wealth, because the fat of the land is what we supposed to rely on for the source of wealth, not for the labor of our sweat of our brow. When we do labor, we supposed to do something because we believe in it, we feel passionate about it, and we want to make it the best we can make it. So if we like building cars, we supposed to work in the car factory. But if we don't like building cars, we ain't got no business in there.
Right.
Right. And some people, their work environment is a whole nother family. The people that they work with, they build bonds of relationship, and sometimes it be actually stronger than some of the members of their actual family.
Right.
Right. So this is when they learn how to fight for each other to stand firm against corporate greed. Corporate greed is going to always find a way to make the little guy get the least amount of the pie.
Right. Yeah,
right? But once you learn how to stand in solidarity in the face of corporate greed, you make sure that whatever the qualified portions of the pie are is divided up among the top tier and the lower tier in value and kind. The CEO of a corporation should not make more than 5 times the lower payer, the lowest paid. If he make 5 times more than that, he got to pick it up in performance bonus. He can't pick it up just because he was the CEO. You're not gonna sign him on $90 million a year when your lowest wage worker is making minimum wage. I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen no more.
Yeah, that's ain't right.
Right, but that's because most of the corporations is going to be consumed by families who love that business. It's in their family blood. We used to do all this stuff by family tradition because most people have the interest that their family have. But now we did so much outsourcing relationships that the family don't all have a common interest. The family is no longer a common interest of family members. I was just telling my brother, we used to get together at funerals and weddings. Now ain't nobody getting married no more. So I'll see you at the funeral home. Right? Because people not falling for the narrative that was sold to us. If they was, the divorce rate wouldn't be so high. Right? And most of that is because nobody wants to discipline their children, so they grow up to be undisciplined adults. Since they undisciplined adults, they can't function like an adult in an adult environment. They function like children trapped in an adult environment that they don't want to be in. And half of them don't want to be there because they're still childlike. They start you off in the first grade in your 12-step detox from thinking program. By the time you graduate high school, you get the concept of how to be ignorant down packed, and you're very good at it now. They can turn you loose on the world, and they ain't have to worry about you being nothing more than an angry sheep.
12 years of slavery. Hey, bro, which brings, the title brings my next question. The title of the tape is The Icing on the Cake. Now, we know that Donald Trump, when he got in, he brought in this new program. Well, it ain't been a new program. It's just, they just made a catchy phrase for it, ICE, right? The Immigration, Custom, and Enforcement. Now, we there's a lot going on in the media where these ICE guys is pulling up and 200 Mexicans take off running. And it's going all over on jobs. Half of the jobs, my girl said that they lost 60 people last night from ICE coming in and taking people that had visas out of the store. So what's your take on Donald Trump going out with the ICE operations, going after the you just talked about it a little bit on the Mexican thing, but what's your take on him? What you think his end goal is on getting all of these people out of the country? Go ahead.
That's the cover for taking people to Gitmo. It's a smoke screen. While they running tribunals in Gitmo, but they also run them in DC.
Go ahead.
And when they get done running, while they running people, taking people mass to Gitmo, they using the immigration situation as a smoke screen. It's misdirection. Hey, look over here. Look over here. Yeah. You get slapped from over there. Yeah. Who did that? Everybody acting like they didn't have nothing to do with it. I'm whooping everybody ass over there now.
And technically, since they don't got
but they got you looking over here.
I would say technically, since they don't got no flag, and Donald Trump really not technically a president, how are they able to enforce this ICE rules onto the land, and they not even, and maybe because they got the visa is a contract with United States government. That's how they can able to, because they got this a contract with United States and not with us. That's how they able to push them off, because it's a contract.
Well, you gotta remember, visas is just a passport to visit for a period of time.
Okay.
Your green card is your application for citizenship and or acceptance thereof. But the visa, you can get a visitor's visa where you only supposed to stay 2-3 days. Then you can get an extended visa, student visa, or a business visa where you can stay up to 6 months. But a lot of them was using that as the pretext to get over here. It was a loophole in the game because once you over here and you fall off the radar, they don't know where you at most of the time.
Right.
So then you can go on and live your life.
Right. They
Used to be.
like I said, they pulled up at a school in California. Go ahead. Say what you gonna say now. I'll say.
It used to be before they took away birthright citizenship that if an immigrant came and had a child over here, they can't deport the parent until the child turned 18 because the child is a citizen, but the immigrant is a custodial parent. So they couldn't deport him until the child turned 18. Normally, they be to have 4 or 5 children by the time, they stop. So that's 18 years from the first one becomes 36 years at the oldest one.
Yeah.
Right. By that time, they ain't been over here so long. You let that old motherfucker stay.
Right. Yeah.
And that's how they was getting around a lot of it.
Yeah, it was this dude on Instagram crying, black dudes crying today. He was at a school graduation and ICE came up in there and have at least all of the Hispanic parents had to leave because they didn't have a visa to be there, but their kids was in school over here. So,
but what about all the Hispanic people that was born here, though?
Right.
When they looking at them, you got to think about this. If they don't know who the illegals is, how they gonna know they not born over here? Because I know Puerto Ricans ain't never seen Puerto Rico.
Right.
And their parents ain't never seen Puerto Rico.
Right.
But they still Puerto Rican.
Talk to me, Rob.
Right. Yeah. I know people that's over here from Haiti. They don't know what Haiti, they never walked a foot in Haiti.
Right.
Cuba, same way. They never been to Cuba a day in their life. You can't just look at these people and say, oh, they are illegal immigrant.
Yeah, it ain't right.
That's stereotyping. False categorization based on stereotypes.
Right.
Right.
Colonization. It's a form of colonization. Yeah.
So they know from records. They know from records where y'all gonna congregate at. They got this many children born to this many illegal immigrant parents, right? So in this geography, there's a graduation going on. It's a good probability that this percentage of parents is going to show up that's actually over here illegally. So they arrayed that one.
Yeah.
Right. But the other one, school could be on the other side of town in the same city, and they don't bother that school's graduation. And they got illegals there too, but they don't have as many as the other place. So therefore, it won't create a compelling spectacle for their laws of power.
Somebody asked in the comments that it says, what should we expect in the next 3 years, based on all the information that we got so far?
Man, we got enough to go on in the next 9 to 10 months, man, that's going to make us reevaluate our whole life choices. It's finna be some stuff, What is going to be? I don't know the order, so I can't say what it's going to be because they could switch them out of order based on the energy flow. But a lot of change is going to take place real fast, but it's not going to look like it while you experiencing it. While you experiencing it seems like it's taking a long time. That's because you actively going through the quagmire of change. Back by still, and it's just how long does it take before it all comes full circle, and then everything had to come out in the open.
All right. So somebody asked another question. Somebody said, Can we have a meeting up to catch up on the police officers committing treason on the land? Me and Rod just did a tape on that not too long ago called "The Poe and the Least of Us," and we got all the receipt tapes to give you how to fight against the police and all that in that tape. But Rod, you want to go in on that a little bit about the police committing treason on the land?
They not committing treason, they invaders. Treason is when you from the land and you turn on the people of the land. That's treason. Mm-hmm. When you a foreign agent working for a foreign agency, you a foreign agent. That's not treason. That's invasion. Mm-hmm. The police is chartered out of London, England. Mm-hmm. So all of the arresting that they doing it arbitrarily based on war protocol. That's why when they got to arrest you, they have to sign something called a warrant. That's right. The warrant is the ongoing declaration of war, but they only taking us to war 1 and 2 at a time. That's why they don't have to face the whole of the nation or all of the people. If they was to come out and really show us what they really doing here, we would be able to see them clear. But they've been showing us, but it's been marked as isolated incidents of police violence. The police always been violent ever since they've been here. They came here to inflict violence upon the population of the people. That's right. We was just trying to fight. They was using chokeholds in California. They were shooting you in the back in Detroit and Chicago and New York. They were stringing you up in the South, hanging you in the dead of night. Police is doing this. Not dudes riding around in KKK uniform. Mm-hmm. Police. Mm-hmm. Police is pulling over the 2 white dudes and the brother going for the civil rights rally and buried them. Police did that. Mm-hmm. We got to remember the police has been the enemy's army from the beginning. The only reason they're here is to keep the poor from rising up against the rich. They're not here for nothing else. Mm-hmm. They just trying to preemptive strike each individual with the individual arrest cycles. That way they don't have to fight us all united. They could fight us separately and individually and give us a sense of learned hopelessness or learned helplessness, where we at the mercy of they perceived authority. It's only a perception of authority, but they got the guns to back it up and they don't want you to have one.
Yeah, threat, coercion, coercion.
Yeah, that's all part of war protocol. That's how you occupy a foreign nation. Exactly what the police is doing. The real law enforcement on the land is supposed to be the sheriff.
That's right.
And the sheriff supposed to arrest anybody impersonating a peace officer, which would be anybody with the words police on their uniform.
That brings me to the next question, Rod. All right, so I was looking up as I'm doing some more research on all the receipts you gave me, and I'm putting another, like I said, I'm putting this AI tape together right now on the pirates and how the pirate thing worked. Now, so I found out that this king passed a letter called the Letter of the Marquis, and this gave the pirates authorization to rob people, and it goes for the state troopers, even in the court system. So, do you know anything about the Marquis letter, the Letter of the Marquis, and the Marquis connection?
It's a title of nobility. A Marquis is a title of nobility, and it's issued under something called letters patent. The reason why they do it that way is because even though they knight you as royalty, you can't pass your royal title on because it's a non-inheritable title of nobility, the same as esquire, the same as honorable.
Duke, and so this is all British influence, and so I noticed that Marquis translate into lawyers. Most of the lawyers through the barristers are made into Marquis, and they pretty much
they esquires.
Esquires, I mean, yes,
they esquires.
Yeah, esquires, and so they don't work for us. They hold alliances to the crown and to the bar, which is the British, the crown, pretty much goes right back to the crown. So pretty much how the lawyers still operating on the land and doing what they're doing I think it's only reason everything still is going because we agreeing to it. It's the only reason it still go. Like if we didn't agree to it no more, it'll be just over with for them. It'll be completely over.
Well, it's being disassembled in parts, right? First of all, it's only a handful of Article 3 judges. That means everybody that's not an Article 3 judge is a non-constitutional judge. That means the Constitution don't recognize them, but the other courts do. That means that's how you know they're working for somebody other than us. They call them administrative law judges. They call them magistrates honorables. Right? A ALJ, administrative law judge, is an administrator. It's not a judiciary. Right? They got different functions, but we don't know. We don't know that there's a difference between a magistrate and honorable and the administrative law judge. They're not the same. The administrative law judge can only deal in statutes and code. Article 3 judge can only deal in law and admiralty time as a military tribunal. He's a tribunal judge that's supposed to be mediating conflict between tribal members. But those are not our courts. The tribal courts are recognized by this system, but we're not told that those are our courts of record and that we should be requesting to change the venue to the tribal court system. It's not enough of us to understand the territorial jurisdictional aspect versus the subject matter jurisdiction. That's why we did that other video on jurisdiction. But you need to know the difference, because the territorial jurisdiction, first bite at the apple go to the tribes. Subject matter jurisdiction, first bite at the apple go to the admirals in maritime and law. Right. That's under the trade agreements of salvage, right? Which gives you colorable law that gives you two colors, black and white, which is represented by the words on the paper, which is the paper chain. Right. The tribal courts have to use paperwork now instead of adjudicating the case to its finality in front of the tribe like we used to. Right. So now, since we was called a mindless mob of outlaw savages that couldn't conduct our own affairs, and then they started killing off the leadership, so we couldn't conduct our own affairs. And any leaders that rose up, they squashed them out, so we couldn't conduct our own affairs. It's a new sheriff in town, and his name ain't Reggie Hammond either.
Hey, so now this is making me, that brings me to my next question. Now we know that they pulling the move. He could the crown was pulling this move off as the postmaster, controlling the whole game, the whole board from the post office. Man, who would ever thought it, man? Like you always looked over the post office. You never would have thought that the whole game on the chessboard is being controlled from the post office. I would have never guessed it, man. It's like the whole time we look at the White House, we look at the Capitol building, all these buildings, and the little bitty post office on the corner, Benjamin Walker Franklin post office, is his whole game plan laid out right there. The whole board, the mainframe, the whole motherboard is right there at the post office. Man, who would ever thought it? Who ever thought it? Boy, they cold, boy. And so the stamps, Rod, the stamps, because I know it's like 30 something.
Did you see this book cover?
Yeah. It's like the Matrix book cover. It looked like a Matrix.
It's called Cracking the Code.
Okay.
This was the first book I read that broke it down in a format where you can understand it.
Yeah. The postmaster general control the game, man.
The
whole book.
Postmaster General is only the one. Okay, so you got to know how the British royalty worked. The contract over the land is given to what's called the House of Lords, right?
Landlord.
And right, and then it's the secondary land rights go to the House of Barons.
Okay.
So you got landlords and land barons. The land baron's job is to sack and seize land. The landlord job is to govern and administer the land and to control what takes place on that plot of land. By a landlord in the royal family in the House of Lords. However many postal zones we have, that's how many lords that was privy to the receipts of the banking done in their geography.
Damn.
So when you thinking that your postal code, your zip code is just to identify your location, it's also identifying which of the House of Lords is over the part of the land that you're walking on.
A barcode.
Right now, the administration of the land rights is done by somebody called barristers.
Yeah.
The barristers is the legal administrators of the estate of the lords, right? And as they, and so in each geography, so we broke up in the states, which mean the fixed condition, counties, which means who's counted in this geography, and cities, and towns and villages, and townships. Now, in one county, it might count up to 20 zip codes. That's 20 members of a family that's under that county control that is tied to the barristers. What we call him the county administrator. He's a barrister administrating the landlord's estate.
County clerk.
He appoints a treasurer. The treasurer then adjusts your tax surveys in order to determine how much of the land you own and what amount of the taxes on the land should you be paying to the House of the Lords that the barristers is seizing under the legalese and the legal system. Remember, their system is a system of levies and liens.
Right.
Levy is another spelling of Levi. It's the same word. It's just pronounced different when you're talking about leaning on something. The levy is also what holds the water back, and that's called the bar, which is why when you go to court, you have to enter the bar. So the postal codes telling you what family members in the royal house of Windsor is controlling the land under the banking system. So all parts of the royal family get one part of the work to do so it runs efficiently. Right. Now, it was similar to the tribal structure, only we didn't use paperwork because we didn't have to write contracts because we dealt with everybody man to man, face to face on a good, fair handshake.
Yep, word of mouth. Oh,
right.
My word.
And all we needed is a competent witness to observe the transaction, and it was legally binding in the tribal court.
Yeah.
Right. Normally, both sides brought a witness.
My word is bond. That's what our thing was.
Yeah. Because our words was as valuable as a bond.
And they still use that, Rod. They call it verbal contracts. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you say, "Oh yeah, well I want this." You order something off the menu, and you pretty much set up a verbal contract with that restaurant that you're gonna pay for the meal afterwards. So it's like a verbal. That was our tribal way of doing things. Verbal.
Everything was done on verbal agreement. The handshake was just what you call sealing the deal.
Uh-huh.
Now remember, the imposters, the colonizers came over here, was trying to get us to give them a handshake on deals we didn't agree with. So instead of shake the hand, we just do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
My hands are clean.
Yeah.
That's what we do that.
Yeah, we don't shake hands with dudes that don't wash their hands after they got to drive for the deuce, man. You know what I'm saying? These guys didn't wash their hands. Look, man, they didn't wash their hands when they came over here. But yeah, man, we almost done, but you got about 15 minutes. Roy Hayes Cash App is down, I think. And so I've been posting the other his PayPal in there if you want to show him some love on the PayPal. Now I got some more, I got like 2 more questions for you, Rod.
My Cash App has been working for a couple of days now. But if you still trying to send something, if it's send it back, you can send it through PayPal.
Yeah, so let me post the Cash App too then. Well, I got the Cash App posted in the pin. Now I got about 2 more questions for you because this is the icing on the cake. And so the icing is already on the cake already. The cake has been baked, right? The cake has been baked already. They fell 300 years. Do you think the Willie Lynch syndrome is still in effect, or has that played out? Because the Willie Lynch Nubian young brothers are still thinking that their other brother is the enemy, and they don't know who the enemy is. And so, do you think the Willie Lynch syndrome or effect is still playing a part in the young community as far as them thinking that they fellow buddy down the street is the enemy? He the ops. Go ahead.
Well, Willie Lynch is just another way of saying divide and conquer.
Okay.
They never stop using divide and conquer till it stop working.
Go ahead.
They're gonna run it in the ground. So they're gonna continue to make people feel like they need to fight somebody down the street rather than deal with the real enemy.
Yeah.
You can't the real enemy because he don't come out in the streets under the guise of being the enemy.
Right.
He sit in our house and eat dinner with us.
Right.
Then go back and give a report to the jurisdictional authority. Right. He spend the night over our kids' house as teenagers because his mama locked him out because he ain't make curfew.
Right.
Right. We don't know what the enemy look like. So we attack the closest thing to us.
Right.
The closest thing to us is us. And then with the antagonistic help of adding in an agitator, they can systematically make a whole neighborhood kill another whole neighborhood.
Right.
One of them Rothschilds said, I can make one half of the working class kill the other half of the working class. Let that sink in.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because they're working class.
So these people can't be human. So emotions, dealing with emotions, and when I was in the military, they used to tell us you can't, like when somebody like say if you're one of your buddies, he get blew up. You can't sit there and pout over him and say, "Oh, he dead." Then you get killed, right? So, but these people right here, they got a militant type mindset when it comes to humans. They don't give a dang about humans. They humans are just another piece of cargo, another piece of meat, another candy bar.
Only
Go ahead.
Right.
Go
In the
ahead.
game of the gods, all humans are expendable.
Go ahead.
Even when the gods come in the human form, they're expendable as a human.
Go ahead.
Right. Humans have a temporary lifespan. The gods are immortals. They just take on the human body for a period of time in order to break up the monotony of eternity.
Right.
Imagine, what are you going to do for eternity? You're not going to never die. You're going to always be here in one form or another. How do you break it up in order for it to not seem monotonous. You live different lifetimes under different conditions to have different experiences.
Mm-hmm. Somebody asked
And
Rod. Oh, go ahead. After she was finished, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. What's the question?
Somebody asked in the crowd, "Hey, shout out Brother Love." He said, "Did you hear about the Nubaru sighting?"
I heard a couple of them. I even posted a couple of them on my Facebook page.
Yeah, I seen one, but I thought it was a fake, but I don't know. I had to go back and look at it again.
Well, I also posted some jumper ships too. They're huge.
Yeah, they got some big ships, man. So right now, right now I'm backtracking to have to teach them more about the land. But I already put out the extraterrestrial stuff already about to pick up all that. We got all that already laced up, the Ascension manual. We already ahead of the game so far. Now we backtracking. You know what I'm saying? We backtracking to come.
And you remember that scroll Malachi wrote, Planet or Plan ET?
Yeah. On Plan ET. It sound like you talked about that in the Holy Tablets. I don't remember it was a tablet. I mean, like a scroll.
It was called. I think it was called Planet or ET Plane. I think that's what it was called, Planet or ET Plane. And the theme of the book was, are we living on a planet or are we living out an extraterrestrial plane for the planet?
Yeah. I remember. I can't remember the exact name of the book, but I know exactly what you're talking about, though. He talked about that in the Holy Tablets, too. Hey,
yeah, he do. It's definitely in the Holy Tablets.
Yeah, and Bodie is actually one that brought that up because Bodie was doing a speech one day at somewhere when the young disciples was out talking, and he said Plan ET, and then when it got back to Doc said that he liked it, and then he started using it, and then went more in depth on it after Bodie had said it. So that was kind of dope. Hey, my last question for you, Rod. So what's the update? Any updates on Larry Hoover's, with the Illinois governor? We heard from Larry Hoover's son and his wife, and they just hoping that the Illinois governor pardon Larry Hoover. But have you ever heard any updates on the progress of Larry Hoover getting out?
When we hear about it, it's going to be as explosive as it was when we heard about Trump commuting his sentence. Good news is no news is good news. I mean, something big, right? Once the news break, see, they don't have to go through the governor. They, based on that commutation, they can request a special parole hearing.
Yeah.
And it's whether they got the legal team to write it up and use the president's commutation as the grounds for the emergency parole relief. Right. You can petition the parole board anytime a significant change in your circumstances happen. And this ain't nothing more significant than him getting commuted by the president of the country, the highest rank elected official on the land. So once you realize that, right, so the smartest avenue would be to get a legal team to write his special parole request. And the special parole request to have him see the board instead of the governor. The governor can actually, petitioning the governor can block your special parole opportunity. So you will go to the special parole opportunity first based on special circumstances. Right. That's normally rare, but it's normally, and they discovered that, oh, we had you in here for first degree murder for 30 years, and we found out that it was actually self-defense.
Right.
So they break the charge down, but now instead of letting you just walk out, you have to see the parole board because you still got to go do your parole.
Yeah.
So that's how I would, if I was in charge of his legal team, that's the avenue I would pursue, special parole, before I would even mention anything to the governor, because the governor already got beef with Trump. And you don't really want to put Larry, somebody with that kind of influence in the state of Illinois between the president and the governor that's having a pissing contest because they're going to use him as a political tennis ball.
Yeah. And so do you think he'll be out by Christmas this year based on the time frame?
I can't say, but I can tell you this. It won't be long, and when it happens, it's going to be a chain of very fortunate events follow.
Man, I believe it too. Right. I can believe
everything is
about to happen.
Everything big is happening on the schedule.
Yeah.
So when he finally get boots to the ground, when his feet finally touch free soil for the first time in 50-some years, at that point, the whole land is going to be on alert. Because nobody believed that that man would live to see a day outside of prison walls.
That's right.
That impact of that single event is the most polarizing and inspiring event that could take place for people that come from where we come from.
Yeah.
Right. People be wanting to write long letters of support. You don't have to write no long letter. You could just say, I support Larry Hoover being free and send that letter to the parole board or the governor or both. And the more of them he get, don't need no long, lengthy explanation as to why. If enough people write in and request that Larry Hoover be free and they don't try to explain themselves, that's where the problem be coming in. Because the letters be too long, they're not going to read all that stuff.
Right.
But if you make it real simple, we support Larry Hoover being released from prison. He's an old man. That's it.
Yeah.
That old man go.
Yeah. And Doc, too. Dr. Malachi Z. York, old man, too. He's 70-something years old. Right? Yeah. And he wasn't no street gangster. He was a regular minister preacher. You know what I'm saying? Well, I can't say he was a regular guy, but hey, but you know what I mean. Right? Hey, but bro, we about to get up out of here, man. We're at the 2-hour mark. Man, this was a good one. Every time we get together, it's a banger, man. So if you got any more things you want me to do for the AI, like I say, when we agree to get off, this right here tape gonna roll into the tape that Rod gave me the receipt for on the Russell J. Coles. Gouz, right? His last name is Gouz, like as in Netaru, right? Because the Netarus are the Gouz, right? So I'm thinking that the Netarus gave him the goddamn quantum, the idea for the shit. You know how he put it together to end this system. But oh yeah, this is my last question for you, Rod. So based on what we got from the Russell J. Gouz storyline, it's pretty much we got the power now. We got the power. All we got to do is just have the knowledge not to be able to let them perish no more, because we perish for the lack of knowledge. So we all we got to do is have the knowledge and be aware of what's going on, and we won't get caught in the blender.
But Russell J. Gould not the only one that made a pivotal discovery in the fraud. Anne Von Reitz, I think she was out of a judge in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She came with a different angle. She was dealing with the judiciary, with the false judges.
Uh-huh.
Right. And she did pretty much the same thing he did from a judicial perspective of somebody who went behind the scenes in order to peep under the dress of the Pope and find out he a robot.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's it. And that does it. You can drop the mic and walk off stage after that. Hey, y'all, we want to thank you for tuning in to Young TV. Like I said, right, if you haven't watched the show about that show called The Last Flag Standing, man, that tape you got to watch. You got to roll right into that tape after this tape. So we want to thank you for tuning in. We send divine love throughout the boundless universe, and we send freedom to all our political prisoners. And, you know, we love you all. Thanks for tuning in. Wadu. Peace.
Wadu.
Yeah.